Good morning, Ben.
Good morning. Hello and welcome to the Movie Moolah Podcast, where we have serious people on to talk about serious subjects in an often silly way. The With me today is Kris Maxx. And honestly, I'm just gonna let him introduce himself because even though we've been friends for years, I'm still not entirely sure what he does. So take it away.
Well, hi, my name is Kris Maxx. My background originally was in IT, and just over 20 years ago, I was invited to intern in a studio in Vancouver for post-production. And there I was an intern, and they did a lot of post-production work for like Cartoon Network and shows like Ed and Eddie. And I learned a lot of stuff in post, including like sound design and all these other things. I was there for a couple months. I was there for a bit and flew back to New York for dumbest reasons. But I still kept in touch with a lot of the people that I met there. And some of those people kind of expanded their careers to work on a lot of network shows and TV shows. And me still being in IT, there were situations that they couldn't solve but needed to be solved by somebody who thought outside the box. And they would fly me to those productions to kind of save their asses. And in those cases, I got a chance to stick around, see them how they shot, how they filmed. I learned a lot of things behind the scenes in production. And more and more and more, when my world was solely in IT, I found my other foot being dipped more and more into film. Uh, Years, let's say, I think it's 2013, 14. I was monitoring this independent production called The Batman Chronicles. It's a fan film, mind you.
Mhm.
That's not a DC thing, but it still is out there. Probably one of the better fan films for Batman, like based on Batman. And I got a chance to learn even more on that. And that production had a little bit of uh, problems towards the end. And I got to work with one of the actors, producers on that to help finish that. And that kind of sparked something. Uh, Being that all those years, 14 years or so prior, whereas I kind of like the whole problem solving thing. I mean, it's kind of like a lateral thing in IT because that's essentially my job. But then bringing that skill set and my experience over the years from film, bringing it more to the forefront. Not long after that, I helped with other productions, and then we did a feature called The Restaurant, where my at that time my co-producer of Hayride Films, Eric Ford Holbinski, he wrote and directed that production. And I originally thought he wanted to do a short. That's a bigger joke. That's another joke. That's a great one. And then we realized that he wanted to do a feature, and then that really put my problem solving skills to the true test. So we shot that over the course of a month, and I
How many shoot
it's
days
still
was
one of,
that for the
huh?
restaurant? How many shoot days was the restaurant?
I think it was like 20 something, and like we shot that on the weekdays, only on weekdays in Astoria, Brooklyn, over the course of 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like long shoots, but it was I learned a lot on that,
Mm-hmm.
especially what not to do. But
Oh yeah,
that's
you're
any film experience. But that now keep in mind this is an independent film, but it is a full
Mhm.
feature film. Um, with the assistance of Ben and some other people, we were able to secure distribution for that. And it had a nice little life on Amazon Prime before it went to some of the others.
Mhm.
And ever since then, I still help some of those film people that I met over in Vancouver with their productions.
Mhm.
Uh, just thinking out of the box, thinking that kind of things. And over the years, I've been trying to grow my own company called Playtime It Over to help independent filmmakers get their films made.
Okay. Well, that is a fairly thorough backing there. So
I think
thank you.
so.
Yeah. Um
Did you learn a lot on that one, Ben? No.
I knew most of that. But this film, The Restaurant, I'd like to know more. But no,
That was quite an adventure.
that was. So I'm not gonna name names here. For lots of reasons, really. But one of the biggest things that happened with The Restaurant was titling. That was the first major thing. And how
So
did you
we
feel
had
that the distributor wanted to change your title, or the sales agent in this case, I guess?
I don't think I would have had a problem with them changing the title because even when we were filming it, Eric and I had the conversation about the title, The Restaurant, and
Mm-hmm.
he and I had definitely had the conversation. It's like, I get why you want to call it The Restaurant, but here's the reality thing from a marketing perspective and
Mm-hmm.
Google perspective. It's going to make the film more difficult to find.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other films that have used that title. So we should come up with an alternative title before somebody else does.
Yeah. So
And,
here,
and
go ahead.
yeah, so we had that conversation with the distributor. And they're like, they kind of yesed us to death. And then they made the choice for us without even letting us know,
Mm-hmm. We
which
found
was,
out. Yeah.
yeah, I did some investigating and I found out before anybody else found out. And I was pretty miffed would be a polite understatement. So the original title and working title was called The Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And when the distributor, found international distribution and United States distribution,
We should maybe
the
be a little
international title, huh?
just for clarity, and consistency of terms. We're talking about the sales agent, not the distributor here. But
Yes, I'm sorry, you're
yeah.
absolutely correct.
Yep.
um, for the States and like North America, they
Mm-hmm.
changed the title to The Devil's Restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
which I had a huge problem for a couple of reasons. Not There isn't a single word in the entire screenplay that says devil.
There also isn't a devil, so
Yeah, there isn't
yeah,
a devil in it either.
yeah.
But the international markets, they kept the title The Restaurant.
That
Yeah.
Okay, so that's weird. But so just for those listening, and this will be a little redundant for you, Max, but
Yeah.
um anytime you're dealing with a sales agency contract, there will be clauses around localization and the rights to
Mhm.
localize. And that normally would include the right to change the title. Now, a good sales agent or distributor will have a conversation with you about this in your home territory, especially, but that's not a guarantee that they will. But it is something that you should be asking for and should really be fighting for, especially if you're going to
Oh,
market your
absolutely.
work.
If anybody
Yeah,
listening to this and you ever
yeah.
find yourself in a similar situation, I mean, take heed, pay
Hmm.
attention. That was definitely one of those carpet under us moments.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think everybody on board would have been significantly happier and would have frankly pushed it more in the
Mhm.
US if it was even something like the Demon's Restaurant, because we just weren't gonna.
Agreed.
It's it's an authenticity thing, and
Mhm.
it's also just it's not great to mismarket your film no matter who's doing it, and that was kind of
So
where
I'm
we
glad you
fell.
used the term
Yeah.
mismarket. The original poster design for the restaurant is wildly different than
Hmm.
what they marketed the film to be. It's like the restaurant is a straight down the middle comedy horror.
Hmm.
There's no like true like memento or anything very Halloween, Friday the 13th, any of that esque bit. But the marketing that they decided to use with, again, out or okay, is completely different and not reflective of what the film is at all.
Hmm.
And that definitely hurt, the like I guess I would say the sales and the growth of that film on, the
Mhm.
North American markets, and I guess internationally, because it kept that packaging.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like when there's it used to be that you could very easily sell that your goal was to sell DVDs and there wasn't really an
Mhm.
easy return method or an easy feedback method.
Yep.
So you could market it as whatever you thought people would buy based on box art. That's
Mhm.
not the case anymore. We primarily move in algorithms and reviews now. So you have to market authentically. Otherwise, you're just
Yes.
not going to find your audience. And I've written a lot about this on my blog. Some of it was inspired by,
No, but
yeah,
also very funny timing on that is because when you and I had first met
still here.
and we
Dog
were
thing.
discussing the restaurant,
Still here. Keep talking.
yeah, when you and I first met and we were talking about the restaurant, we were still at the tail end of that mindset with selling
Hmm.
DVDs and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh, the market has vastly changed, like at least three different times since then.
Oh yeah.
Uh, when we were like looking for distribution for the restaurant, is like DVDs and Blu-rays was still a thing, and the VOD market and like the digital market was still something coming up. It wasn't there yet.
I mean, it's
So
still
it
not
was,
there to the level TVDs were.
well, it's definitely there this year.
Yeah. You think?
Like, yeah, it's like I've been seeing, and that we'll get to that
Yeah.
later on. I don't want to jump too much ahead.
Hmm.
Um, it's so weird. It's like, it's almost like if you want to think all the way back to, I want to say 97, 98, when DVDs started taking over the VHS market,
Hmm.
where that there's just this weird flow is like, okay, well, people are investing more in DVD, and then like it goes that way. We had definitely hit that cusp where
Hmm.
people were slowly buying less DVD and focusing more on streaming and VOD, like, and like not VOD, but like digital. Like had just started that.
Hmm.
So they're my it's like I try to look at all problems and situations from, most people's perspectives. And so I could understand why their mindset was to sell it or remarket it as a slasher flick,
Hmm.
because they believed that they were still in that DVD market and they wanted to push more of those as a slasher. But
Yeah.
that's not what the film was.
No, it's
Yeah.
authenticity is significantly more important than it used to be in marketing, especially for media. And
And that has drastically changed in the last 6, 7 years.
oh, entirely. And the other thing is that a lot of sales agencies and distributors are pretty resilient to change. Not all. There are a lot more now that are really pivoting and embracing all of the metrics they can in order to figure out
Mhm.
how best to select titles and market them. But unfortunately, even for the sales aid, even for the distributor, let alone the sales agent, which is another layer removed normally,
Mhm.
um, the data you get from platforms and sales is far from ideal. And I'm saying that
And
as a distributor. But yeah.
I always wondered about that, because the sales data that they had back then, in terms of like being able to track the sales of DVDs and that stuff, was a lot easier than I think it is to track the digital.
Oh yeah, it's much it's the reporting from retail and physical is always a
Yeah.
lot better. Just because there are actually physical units that have moved. And there's just there's an accountability there's an inherent accountability in that.
I figured
But
with technology that would have been different for digital now than anything else.
yeah, I don't fully understand. I mean, really it should be moving faster because we're talking
Yeah.
about servers talking to each other, which takes
Handshake.
yeah, basically. It's not it's really strange to me that most platforms still report on a monthly or even quarterly basis. So like if you're using something like Film Hub to get
Right.
your films out there and they're only reporting once a month or so for a certain platform, that's probably not them. That's actually that's just when you get these reports. Like when I was running Mutiny, we had an atrocious delay for the first report and a slightly less bad delay for reports after that. And it was just it ended up taking for the first report as much as 240 days from release.
None of that
Which
makes any sense right now.
no, it doesn't. And it just has to do with quarterly lag, most of them won't report on partial quarters. So if you if you release towards the beginning of a quarter, you're not going to get it until the next quarter, which on its own
Right.
can be like 180 days if you're exactly wrong. And then there's normally like a 30 to 60, there's a 30-day platform
You know,
delay between when they pay you and a 30-day delay from your servicer, which is how you
I
end
did
up.
notice that when Eric and I were getting our reports back and seeing like how
Yeah.
the film did like that, like they were like significant delays,
Yeah.
like per quarter. And like there were cases where, things that were certainly due on the first quarter, we won't read until the third.
hmm And
Uh,
that's not always within your sales agent or distributor
right.
control. That is,
Uh,
I want to be clear on that. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that they can't
I
give
mean,
you something that they don't have.
I
So,
play devil's. Well, because not just being a producer, but being
mhm,
just, somebody who's been throughout the industry is like, I
mhm,
understand that those things are a possibility,
mhm,
but that doesn't mean it's acceptable. There's like, there's still a level of communication that still needs to be had. So if you don't have said information, at least let the person asking the question know, hey, we're waiting for some of the information as well. Just something as simple as that versus
mhm.
no communication at all.
Yeah, no, it's like when I was running Mutiny, one of the biggest things that I at least tried to do every week, a lot of times it didn't get done because I was the CEO and quite busy. But I tried to actually send an individual text to each of our filmmakers just saying, "Hey, here's what happened with your film this week. Here's what's coming up next. Talk to you next week." And a lot of times those texts were, "Hey, we did move it. The servicer is moving it up there. Hue, where it's art to artist, even if it's not anything concrete,
Yeah,
having them know
it's
something."
communication.
Yeah, it's
No, it is definitely something that you are absolutely amazing at. Um, for the audience, just for sheer clarity, is like
mhm,
Ben and I have been friends for many years.
mhm,
And there are cases because I'm an out of the box thinker, is like we
mhm,
bounce ideas and thoughts off of each other just to make sure that we're thinking in the right mindset.
mhm,
So it's like we are friends. It's like, but we are working at different ends of the industry. So this is kind of why that works.
mhm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
the whole sales agent distribution, all that thing is like it still is messy. And if you're an independent filmmaker looking to get your film distributed and you're looking for sales agent, I think probably one of the best things you can do is like hop into, and this sounds archaic, but still very true, your Facebook forums.
mhm,
There are a lot of other filmmakers that are going through what you're going through, have gone through what I've gone through, and now we can all communicate with each other in a private way sometimes, because sometimes those sales agents and distributors also hop into those things just to find out what people are saying about them and try to mitigate it. But have a conversation with other
mhm,
filmmakers. It's not like you can reach out to us, mostly anyway, like in a
mhm,
personal way. You shouldn't direct DM us as like that, but at least have an open conversation and see what other filmmakers have experienced.
mhm. I would
uh yeah.
maybe I've been giving some bad advice, but
Uh-huh.
how do you feel if somebody contacts you specifically about a distributor or rep you've worked with in the past?
I'm very directly,
Mhm.
I'm cautious.
Okay.
Because I mean, there's a lot of scammers and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like you're not really sure who you're talking to. So it's like more and more you tend to be a little bit more apprehensive about outside communication. So unless we've met somewhere in person and we're continuing a conversation, that's completely fine.
Mhm.
Uh, about another distributor or whatever, I think open communication sometimes is best because it's out in
Mhm.
the open. It's a little bit more clear.
Mhm.
But again, if we've met in person or if we've communicated somewhere in person, then that's completely different. I'm just always very cautious about, somebody slipping into my DMs about and asking questions about people. I'm not okay with that.
Fair enough.
I'm always cautious.
I mean, what I've said to do for filmmakers in the past when working with a new sales agent is to go to the sales agent's IMDb Pro or on
Hmm.
Pro, and then look up films they've done recently, and find
Hmm.
some films that are between one that were released in the previous year or maybe the year before, and call filmmakers with publicly, IMDb
Yes,
Pro listed information and actually
I'm
call.
okay with that
Yeah,
because you have to have an IMDb thing in there. So there is a
yeah.
level of, there is a wall there. So it's like that's completely fine. I'm
Mhm.
okay with that.
Okay.
I'm not okay with like direct Instagramming or any of
Oh,
that.
no, no,
Like,
no. That's yeah.
no. Through IMDb Pro, that makes sense. I'm
Mhm,
okay with that.
mhm.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's also one of those that spoofing technology hasn't quite gotten to the point where you can realistically fake phone conversations, not as easily as text. It's edgy, but
Sure.
oh, it's already there. Okay. That's comfortable. I'm glad I'm not picking up my phone anymore. But so
No, I don't pick up numbers I don't know at all.
oh yeah, no, it always like
Yeah.
if you're calling somebody, most people don't pick up unknown numbers anymore. Leave a message. There's a good chance they'll get back to you. That's
That,
how I
yes.
am at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because like it's more, we're not like this is a call I don't think any of us would mind taking, unless there are
No.
contractual reasons
No.
not to. But but we also don't want to talk about our car's extended warranty again. So yeah.
There's that. Um, there are good sales agents out there, and
Mhm.
sometimes even they get put into situations that they have no control over. So again, I'm always playing devil's advocate, and I try to pay attention to situations from all perspectives. Uh, my biggest pet peeve really is just the communicating aspect of it.
Mhm. Oh,
So it's like if
entirely.
you have a if you have a question, a concern, you should have questions and concerns. You should get your questions answered.
Just
Even if that person does not have the answer to the question, just saying is like, hey, I don't have the answer right now,
Mhm.
but I will try and get the answer for you.
Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world, I've found, and I think basically every distributor of any size, well, not maybe not of any size, but like every sales agent or distributor with a staff of, I'm gonna go with 4 or more,
Hmm.
um, should really have a full-time filmmaker relations and acquisitions person. It needs to be a dual job there, and frankly, eventually, once you get beyond a head count of 4, you're probably gonna want somebody just on filmmaker relations as separate from acquisitions. It's just it is such a vital job moving forward in this industry, particularly, and even though it might look on paper like it's just a drain on resources, it's
It's
not
not.
at all. It is going to
Um,
prevent so much legal costs as well as improve filmmakers' marketing, and that's going to improve the bottom line overall.
well, I
So,
mean, we are in this business. I mean, yes, to make money, but to
mhm,
entertain first.
mhm,
And I think that, I mean, eventually I would like to be in a better position where I can help out filmmakers from the sales agent and like, distribution end.
Hmm.
That would be a great goal for me because it'd be that much easier for me to help burgeoning filmmakers out there.
Hmm.
But yeah, exactly what you said is like just that whole relations, that communication, and I gotta stress this, human touch.
Hmm. Wait, chatbots won't work?
Hey, I have seen some amazing chatbots, but you can still know that the answers they're giving you are really quick, but it's not a human touch.
I hate when the
Yeah,
chatbots make it really hard to get to a human. And it's an atypical
the,
edge case question. That's their job, I know, but it's like,
oh no, there are tricks around that.
yeah.
I don't know if I should say that here.
Well, we're gonna have an offline conversation about that then. But
There, there are special words that you can put in a chatbot that forces them to direct you to a human.
hmm, that's I would like to know those, but I am not sure how much of that is trade secret, for lack of a better term.
Um, Message me on IMDb Pro.
My email's there, but yeah, don't use a chatbot. But
Yeah,
the
but no. There is something to be said about like, uh, human connection.
Mhm.
I know that like, especially in retail, that whole customer service bit is definitely fading, not
Mhm.
for without their own reasons, but no, when it comes to I keep stressing independent filmmakers, and there's a reason for it.
Mhm.
Um, Independent filmmakers, their goal is to really get their art out there versus making the money end of it.
Mhm.
I would like to help them make money off of their stuff, but it's like there's so many walls for artists before it even gets to do that.
Mhm.
And they don't know about sales agents. They don't know how to deal with them. They don't know how to deal with distributors. And even I didn't at one point. And the truth is, the only reason I know as much as I do now is because of the wonderful experiences we went through with the restaurant.
Wonderful. Yes, that's a great way of phrasing it.
And yeah, and the and in learning and dissecting and like how much better this experience could have been if they did this, if they didn't do this. And not pointing fingers, but again, I understand that there are other things in play. Um, but no, that entire experience could have been infinitely better with very little work.
Mhm.
And I have communicated and worked with other sales agents and distributors just in communication and realized, okay, so it's not me. That situation definitely was not okay.
Mhm. No, it was a I don't want to go into details on it, but it was a weird one. It was an edge case on a lot of things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it
But
was
like all bad experiences, it needed to happen so I can grow as a person, as a
mhm.
producer, as well as know how to make things right for other filmmakers in the future.
Yeah, no, you're right. One bit of good advice I got a while back,
Mm.
um, was from a Silicon Valley guy, and he said, "Oh, everybody gets everybody gets fucked over on their first exit. Don't worry about it."
I
And
remember
that's
you quoting
yeah,
that one, and there's definitely a level of truth to that.
yeah, and it's more and you can apply the same basic logic to
Anything,
film making.
life
A lot of
experience.
yeah, it's you're going to learn more on your first film than you learned probably all throughout film school, basically. It's yeah. One thing though on the communication, I do want to stress that communication is a two-way street, and
Yes,
It's if you want more information from your distributor, it's best to not start with a nuclear email. Start with, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Everything okay? Start with something like that. And then move up over time. If you go straight to the nuclear, yeah, you'll get attention,
Yeah,
but it's not going to help you.
I
So,
think to let's clear nuclear. Uh, Diplomacy is always best.
mm-hmm,
Never go in with like a hothead, angry situation. I mean,
mm-hmm,
that's the nuclear end of it.
yeah,
Uh, I try to approach my communication emails. All right, this is a very interesting lesson. I never write an email to anyone of authority without this mindset. Always assume that any email you write will be forwarded and CC'd to somebody else.
probably a
So
lawyer.
it's probably especially a lawyer.
Yeah,
So I try to approach my communication emails with a clear thought and points and facts, and was like, hey, good morning, so and so. I have concerns, and here are my concerns. And just neatly says, like, here are my concerns without any tone or anger. Is like,
mm-hmm,
are you able to provide me answers for any of the above?
yeah. I mean, unfortunately, text lacks tone, and people will read in
It
their own tone.
absolutely does.
So even if you are trying to be level-headed about this, you have to keep in mind that there's a strong chance that they're going to mean it. They're going to read it as significantly more angry than you meant it. That's just
Which
going to
again,
happen.
which brings me back to that same rule, is like I
Mhm,
try not to do any sort of communication to anyone with authority
mhm,
that they will screenshot forward, whatever. This our industry may seem large, and with those social media and communication, it's a lot smaller than you think.
mhm.
You piss off the wrong person, and it could be an avalanche of other things,
Oh, yeah. That's
you
definitely
know.
something that can happen, and I've seen it happen.
Oh,
Um,
so have I. Yeah, it's it,
it's
it's it's tough to keep a level headed sometimes. It's okay for you to be pissed off. It's more than okay for you to be pissed off.
mhm,
Uh, but if you're lucky enough to have like a friend you can communicate with that doesn't breach any sort of like things, like talk it out. It's like sometimes if they're at least a good friend, is like they'll kind of help you keep a level headed on things and have you look at things from other perspectives.
mhm. It does
But
help if they have some degree of experience in the industry, if you're
it
talking about
does.
specifically. They don't need to, sometimes they just need to listen, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I've when I've been talking highly technical things with very close confidants, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and not breaching any confidentiality agreements by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is sometimes frustrating when they ask a really basic question that you're like already 10 steps beyond. So just be aware.
In my life.
Yeah, I know. That's just just to any of those listening, be aware that that is a risk and just kind of pregame a little bit in your head how to deal with that situation without getting more flustered because it tends to not.
Uh, but yeah, as a producer,
Mhm.
I don't know if I should call it a skill set more than it might be something against me. I try to not make any executive decisions heated or emotional.
Mhm.
I try my best that any decision that I make is for the best of the production and for the team. There was a call that I had to make, and it's probably the first time that I've ever made that call where I decided that it was best to not further a production because I didn't see the money, the additional money being put into a production being of value or making the product better. And as much as I know that how much that can hurt the team, I think putting out an inferior product with our names on it was definitely worse, more detrimental. So it's like, and
Yeah.
these are sometimes the calls that we have to make. And it's not emotional. It's not because you pissed me off, or it's not because of anything like that. It's like, I gotta look at the bottom line. Here is X amount
Mhm.
of money that we need to put more into this to be able to make this film a bit more decent, but not way better.
Oh yeah. No, I've been in the exact same situation and I've lost friends over it. It's disappointing.
I have as well.
Yeah. So Max, I still don't understand how you have the network you have. It's impressive. You like, I swear you're like second degree from basically everyone on Earth somehow. The
Well,
so do you have any networking tips? Is where that was going. But
oh, networking tips. All right, so this is a very interesting thing. A couple of days ago, one of my students, he teaches at this audio college, and I was asked to speak with his class. Uh, Trust me, that really made me feel old in so many ways. Uh, and I was asked a similar question, and I'm gonna give a similar answer, and that is, uh, I like people for one, and because of that, my experience in Vancouver and meeting those friends, and just being part of their community, and them being more welcoming than they should have been for someone from New York. That when they were in a jam and I was able to help them out, and I was able to meet some of their team, and some of those guys worked on Smallville and some of the other shows. And so just being able to communicate within those circles and just throughout those years, because from the time that I worked in Vancouver to the time that we did the Batman Chronicles, about 15 years. And I would go to a lot of film festivals, a lot of the indie film festivals, meet a lot of the filmmakers, see some of their art, and then we would communicate and say, hey, I like your stuff. Let's talk about other stuff, and then help them with some of their projects and stuff like that. And then see them grow as filmmakers and go do other stuff, do TV stuff and all that stuff. So it's just, be open. Uh, don't be a dick.
rules for
Like,
life. Don't be a dick. It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's so I've been mentally writing a guerrilla rap media's rules for filmmaking, and don't be a dick has always been one. Number two has always been do your homework. And number three, it's a collaborative industry. There's like a whole thing that has kind of got there.
Man,
Yeah.
uh, I remember we were shooting something for my buddy Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And I use some sort of like people in the food industry just kind of meeting each other and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of celebrity chefs and stuff there were a lot of celebrity people and other like personalities that were there. And it was just one of those weird moments where I didn't quite realize how long I've been in the industry, where these people knew me, said hi to me, and called me out by name. And then people like my buddy Francis were like, huh? But I like being under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
I like my position as an independent film producer. I do realize that eventually that's not going to be sustainable. I am going to start having to do more broadcast stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like TV and feature film stuff. But for now, I like the ability to be able to help independent filmmakers and give as much undivided attention I can to help them out.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that kind of pays dividends down the line from a
Yeah.
agency perspective or a management or producer's representation perspective. You can make a solid career if you have the right 10 filmmakers producing movies every 2 years. If you have that, you are
Mhm.
you can build a solid 5 or 6 head company with just those 10 filmmakers. if they're the right filmmakers. And
Hey,
that's the challenge. But and you have to grow and scale with them. That's basically it. So it's I think we're all kind of out there looking. And personally, the biggest difference between sales agents that I see are some are just of the mindset there's so much schlocky content out there. It doesn't matter. We don't have to be good to the filmmakers. It doesn't matter because we'll have new filmmakers every day. And I just disagree with that mindset. I think you need to
I do
treat
too.
everybody as well as you possibly can and you'll be much better off because with repeat business they're going to get better films and you're going to be able to do
Yeah,
more with it. And again, the goal is that those 10 master clients, basically. It's a thing. And going back to your networking tools, it sounds like rule number 1, don't be a dick. Rule number 2, give before you get. And I
yeah,
don't quite know what 3 is other than always have drinks with Max when you're in New York. But the
yeah, I'm okay with that. Uh, I think another very important rule, and it's going to be a very hard rule for many people to kind of get, is like, yeah, don't always take everything personally.
Mhm.
There's always another story behind something else. It's like whether if someone treats you a certain way is like they probably heard shit from somebody else, whether it be true or not. You hope that in their growth as a human being, they realize maybe there's more to the story.
Mhm.
So don't take things personally.
It's
And if you
not.
believe, and if you believe someone has taken things personally, I mean, hey, it's like, hey, can we have a conversation? You know?
Let's just talk about it. No, the communication is really key. The
Yeah.
other thing that I've come to rely on for my own personal executive decision making is first assume error. Second, assume incompetence. Only then assume malice. That's you have to go through each of these with each individual person you're dealing with because
That's kind of brilliant.
yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But it's
But it's on
mhm,
point to the people that we are.
yeah.
You know, I never assume malice first.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
just don't.
It's just it doesn't help anybody. It's not
The world is
there.
already a level of toxic that it doesn't need to be. People are allowed to have their own opinions,
Hmm.
whether they're right or not. They're entitled to have their opinions.
Yeah. That people are entitled to have their opinions, and those opinions are entitled to be stupid. It's just where it is. People have the right to be
That
wrong.
just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a weird thing, but it's more like it really comes down to give more than you get as well, and don't be a dick. And that's not to say that there aren't bad faith actors out there. There totally 100% are. It is not so much a
It's not just it's you know what? I'm gonna throw this out there. Not just bad faith actors. There are people like I mean, even myself. I've
mhm,
done some dumb shit in the past, and it's just pure slight moment of ignorance and ignorance.
mhm.
But I know the person that I am. I have done idiot shit in the past. Eventually comes up and like we have a conversation and things are fine.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, people are allowed to be human. People are allowed to be stupid. People are allowed to do dumb shit. Have a conversation.
Yeah, it's just dumb shit happens.
Yeah,
And also, I guess on that same rule though, once you've actually warranted that it's malice, you kind of need to plan for it and act accordingly. It's don't be the first though. It's almost never good to be the first. Almost always better to
yeah.
counterpunch than punch. Um,
I haven't quite figured that part of it.
Hmm.
Again, because I always go in with to a situation without emotion.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's more it's only happened a few times to me, and I've done a lot of business. It's
Yeah,
basically you have to understand when you're dealing with a bad faith actor, and
yeah,
you need to act accordingly because it's a different rule set when they're not playing in good faith, basically.
yeah.
So, I'm not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. I should have said that earlier, but it's I'm gonna
Well,
have
I
to
mean,
put a
let's stress
hashtag
it out.
not a
Neither
lawyer.
of us are lawyers
Yeah,
or in the legal industry, so
yeah.
these are our opinions.
Yes, I'm gonna have to put the hashtags on there, not a lawyer and hashtag not legal advice. I have those on certain blogs now because it comes up. But yeah, it's a thing. So, all right. I am getting in the habit of asking these three questions at the end of every interview. Um,
Sure, hit me.
and you can answer the first one second, um, because it might take a second to think about.
Okay.
And the first one is, what are your top three favorite movies as it stands right this second now? They can change in 10 minutes. It doesn't really matter. Just what's the vibe you're going with now? And do you want to hear the second question while you think about it?
I already have the answer for the first, but let's hear the second.
Okay. The second is, if you could go back and change and do one thing differently in your life, what would it be?
Wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
Wouldn't.
That's the first time I've gotten that answer, and I like it a lot. So,
Uh, I mean, it's true to form. Is like
hmm.
every. I'm at that very in particular age where I start
Hmm.
counting the years that I've been alive as chapters, and every chapter is a bit of growth for me as a person.
Hmm.
The person that I was when I was 37 is definitely not the person I was when I was 38. I've learned from the mistakes from when I was 37. And yeah, no, the person that I am today is essentially is all the lessons that I've learned in the past, all the mistakes that I've made, and it's growth. So I can't go back and tell myself to change anything because that person needed to grow.
That's a very wise answer. That's probably my favorite so far. So,
Yeah.
um,
To answer your other question, I'm throwing it from different categories, so this one should be fun. Shawshank Redemption will still be my number one of all time. That just to
mhm.
me is just one of those perfect films. Uh, from the screenwriting, from the storytelling, from the acting is just perfect. It's just one of those films that I could just throw on and just beautiful film.
Mhm.
And it ends in such an uplifting way. The second one shouldn't be anybody's surprise. The Usual Suspects.
Okay. Even with the
Again,
legacy of Singer and
yeah,
Spacey.
I'm answering the question as a film. You
Fair enough.
know, despite what Mr. Spacey has done, I'm not aware of it or anything at that point when I chose to watch the film and enjoy the film.
Fair enough.
Taking that out of the equation whatsoever.
I think that's a healthy outlook.
Well, it's different if I knew about it and then I saw the film, but that's not the case in history here.
Mhm.
Another one is definitely not on anybody's list, I believe, and it's for a completely other reason. It's a film called The Red Violin, and for that, for me, it's mostly the score and the way that tells a story. I'm a huge fan of music. I used to write music. I used to produce music. It's I could listen to that and just get captivated in that story. And it's also one of the films that people would not even expect Samuel L. Jackson to be in. And he plays a very not Samuel L. Jackson role in that film.
I didn't know he could play any other roles than Samuel L.
Oh, this would
Jackson.
surprise you.
Okay.
Yeah. What was your number 3?
My number 3 was, what are you looking for and where can people find you?
Oh, that part's easy. Uh, my name is Kris Maxx. Kris with a K and Max with 2 X's. Pretty much all of my social media is, you can search for me on Instagram. I am on IMDb. I am not that difficult to find, especially with a name like mine. And hey, even though I did say not to DM, it's like, hey, you can add me and message me. It's like, hey, I saw you on so and so podcast. It's like, I have a question. I will accept that as a different form of communication. So I know that you at least saw the conversation Ben and I had, and it's like, hey, I have a question. I will answer your question when I have a moment.
It's good. And what are you looking for?
In terms of, that was a very broad question.
It is, you're right. Career next steps. What are you looking for from
Ooh,
filmmakers or anyone who might be listening to this is more the intent.
I've been expanding my career as a writer, and I've been collaborating with other writers. There are a lot of projects that we're planning to get filmed. A lot of it is not horror related, to many people's surprise. There's a couple like really sentimental stories in there that Ben would probably be extremely hilarious to find, considering that we've been friends as long as we've had now.
Yeah,
There's a
sorry.
few.
When you said sentimental stories, I heard drama, and my eyes kind
No,
of
no, no,
rolled.
no, like touching stories, like something that kind of like hits you right in the feels.
Okay, I mean, I'll look at it, but it sounds a lot like drama, and drama's hard to sell.
Oh, this is different.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
definitely different. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some of these are shorts. I'm planning out some features, and there are some series in there that I definitely want to produce.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a matter of time, opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
investors. But
Always.
I think I'm going to focus on not just entertaining. I want people to kind of learn and stuff like this from a lot of this stuff too. There is a horror or two in there, but it's like that's not as priority as some of the other stuff that I want to push out. I want to push out more hopeful projects.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think the world does need that because pretty much everything I'm seeing submitted these days is dystopian. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to shift away from that. I'm trying to like there's even like a couple projects that are like documentaries, and like one we had just discussed recently about certain histories in New York.
mm-hmm. Yep,
I'm
yep,
being
yep.
very vague about it on purpose.
I know you are. That's I was nodding in acknowledgement because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
but no, it's like if time permits and people need help, I'll guide them through.
cool. Well, Kris, Max.
Max.
Um,
Oh yes, for the record, I prefer to be called Max and Kris. There's too many Chris's out there. At least if you find me in a crowd and you yell Max, you have a fighting chance of me turning around.
fair enough, Max. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll definitely have you
Thank you
back.
for having me.
And for those listening, this has been the Movie Moolah Podcast. You can find us on YouTube through the Gorilla Rep Media channel. You can also find us on all the places you get your podcasts. Please like and subscribe on your favorite place. And check out my free indie film business resource kit, which includes an investment deck template, festival template, free ebook, free white paper, lots of other templates, and great time and money saving resources. You'll also get monthly blog digests of blog and content digests of stuff just like this to help you discover and continue to grow your career on a passable schedule. And finally, the last pitch. If you really like this content, it does take time to produce. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. Links below. Thank you all so much.
Guys, if you're still here, thank you for watching. Ben, thank you for having me.